Welcome to Solar Love Frequency. This is a space where illusions are burned, and the truth of your being begins to rise. This message is not for the man who hides behind masks, it's for the one who's ready to face what lives beneath them. You may not realize it yet, but the pain you carry in love didn't start with romance. It started with the first woman you ever knew. The one who held you before you had words. The one whose face became your first mirror. There comes a moment in a man's life when the applause fades, when chasing women feels numb, when victories turn to dust in the mouth. And it's in that stillness. Something stirs. Not a memory, not a regret, but a feeling older than your body. A pull, a longing, a sadness that doesn't belong to now. That's not coincidence. That's the moment you meet the mother inside you, not the woman, the imprint, the energetic structure that shaped your survival. Long before you had dreams or goals, you had one mission: earn her love. When you were small, her smile was safety. Her touch was the world. And when her gaze was absent or cold or inconsistent, you adapted. You became the boy she needed, even if it meant losing pieces of your own truth. And that's when it began. The performance, the mask, the belief that to be worthy of love, you had to earn it. That boy never truly left. He just got taller, learned some new lines, put on stronger armor, but inside he's still watching, still waiting, still performing for a mother who may no longer even be in the room. This isn't about blame. This isn't about victimhood. This is about energetic loyalty. Somewhere along the path, you inherited a silent vow. If I can become enough, I'll be loved. If I succeed, I'll be seen. If I protect her, fix her, stay small for her, I'll finally be chosen. But that vow didn't birth power, it birthed pattern. And that pattern is what keeps replaying in your life. Why do you shrink around powerful women? Why do you sabotage love right when it starts to feel safe? Why do you feel unworthy when joy finally arrives? Because deep down, the boy inside still believes, I'm not allowed to feel free until she's healed. And that's the fracture. That's the spell. Freedom begins the moment you recognize this. You are not her emotional caretaker. You are not her second chance. You are not here to carry the sorrow she never faced. You were never supposed to become the man she needed. You were supposed to become the man you are. And you can't do that if you're still playing a role to please a ghost. Most men don't chase love, they chase repair. Most men don't want intimacy, they want redemption. They want to be seen finally, not by a woman, but by the part of themselves they abandoned to feel safe as a child. This is the hidden story behind your dating patterns, behind your emotional shutdown, behind your overfunctioning, overgiving, or overperforming. You're not just relating to women, you're reenacting a sacred wound, and until that wound is witnessed, claimed, and released, you'll keep calling it chemistry when it's really just repetition. Every man carries a hidden contract, not written, not spoken, but lived. It sounds like this: if my mother struggled, I shouldn't succeed. If she wasn't loved, how dare I feel chosen? If she suffered her whole life, who am I to feel free? This isn't logic, it's emotional gravity, and it pulls you back to the psychic atmosphere of childhood, to the room you outgrew physically, but never left energetically. So what happens? You dim your light right before you shine. You choose partners that reflect her absence. You sabotage peace because it feels unfamiliar. Not because you want to, but because something inside still whispers. If I heal, I betray her. This is the hidden code, and it runs your life until you see it. This isn't about whether she loved you. This isn't about good mothers or bad ones. It's about the archetype you internalized and how it shaped your perception of worth. The mother figure becomes more than a woman. She becomes law. And if that law said love is earned, you'll spend your life trying to earn it through success, women, status, or sacrifice. But that love was never yours to earn. It was meant to be given, freely, naturally, unconditionally. If it wasn't, then the wound is real, and the healing must begin. Here's the paradox most men never face. You do not honor your mother by suffering alongside her. You honor her by evolving beyond her. You were not born to orbit her pain. You were born to complete what was unlived. to carry the branch forward, not to stay tangled in the roots. This is the path of the adult self, to separate, to choose, to rise and without guilt. And yet the boy hesitates, because joy feels like betrayal, because success feels like abandonment, because peace feels like disloyalty. But hear this, her pain is not your prison. She gave you life, but what you do with that life is your offering back. You are not here to echo her sadness, you are here to reclaim your sovereignty. But there's a kind of loneliness no one talks about, the loneliness that comes when you finally stop performing. You show up, you smile, you meet expectations. But underneath it all, a part of you still waits. A child curled in the corner of your psyche, unseen, unheard, still hoping for a gaze that never came. Most men have abandoned themselves to win a love that was never safe to begin with. You punish yourself when you need softness. You silence your pain when it begs to be held. You laugh off your sorrow, but would never dismiss a friend's. This is how deep the adaptation runs. You have become your own jailer, your own absent nurturer, your own internalized mother. And this is the final frontier. The wound is no longer about her, it's about how you now treat yourself. The voice in your head is hers, but it's your tone, your rhythm, your language. But the truth is, you are not that voice. You are the one hearing it. And it's time to choose differently, to father yourself, to protect your softness, to hold your grief like sacred fire, not shame. This is not rebellion, this is not hatred, this is liberation. The descent into your own soul is not poetic. It's disorienting, uncomfortable, devastating, only to the parts of you that were never really you. Because the moment you stop seeking your mother in women, the moment you pull back the ancient loyalty to her pain, you will feel alone. Not because you are, but because for the first time, you're standing in the silence she used to fill. That silence is sacred. It's where your real voice begins to form, where your real self takes shape, not the son, not the performer, not the rescuer, but the man, not defined by her gaze, not driven by her wound, not dependent on her presence, but self-possessed, rooted, whole. Most men think they're failing because they lack discipline, or motivation, or confidence. But deeper than that, many are still loyal to a mother who struggled. And so they made a vow, subtle, unconscious, but binding. If she couldn't thrive, I won't either. If she wasn't loved, I don't deserve love. If she never felt free, I'll stay stuck, for her. This isn't conscious, it's not logical, it's mythic. It's what the psyche clings to when it doesn't yet know it has a choice. So you ruin things just before they blossom. You collapse in relationships when they get safe. You seek rejection, not because you want it, but because it's familiar, because it matches the frequency of your earliest bond. This is how the mother wound disguises itself, as ambition, as sabotage, as chemistry, as chaos. But beneath it all is one aching belief: if I heal, I leave her behind. But listen, you were never meant to carry her pain. You are not her echo. You are not her second chance. You are not her protector in disguise. You are the branch that grows beyond the old tree, not to sever the roots, but to bloom where she could not. That's not betrayal. That's completion. That's what a true legacy looks like, and that's what most men are starving for. Not sex, not success, not validation, but the right to fully become themselves, without guilt. And that process, the reclaiming of your full, untamed masculinity, it requires grief. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you don't just feel powerful. First, you feel everything you've buried: the shame, the rage, the loneliness, the tenderness, all the emotions that were too much for her to hold, so you learned to hide them. But you're not that child anymore, and now is the moment you become the one who stays. Stay with your sadness, stay with your unmet needs, stay with the voice inside that says, I want to be seen. This is not weakness, this is the sacred threshold of wholeness. You've spent your life trying not to become your father, but silently you became a prisoner to your mother. Not by choice, but by unconscious inheritance. And the tragedy isn't that she failed you. It's that her voice still governs your worth long after she left the room. But now, you get to choose, to speak with your own voice, to move from your own rhythm, to live from your own center. And that choice, to stand in your truth without waiting to be chosen, is the rebirth of the man. Not as reaction, but as embodiment. Not as rebellion, but as reverence. Reverence for the life you were given, and for the man you're becoming now. This is where the path turns, where the seeking stops, where the hunger dissolves, where the boy lays down the sword he's been swinging at ghosts. Because the fight is over, there's nothing left to prove, no gaze left to win, no fantasy left to chase. Now there is only this, presence, not forced, not performed, but claimed. A presence that doesn't rise from applause, but from anchored silence. Let's be clear, you cannot truly love a woman while your soul is still bound to your mother. You can desire her, you can need her, you can even worship her. But that's not love. That's projection. That's reenactment. That's the unconscious begging for repair. When the mother inside is unhealed, you don't choose women, you assign them roles. You don't relate, you recruit. And when she inevitably fails to fulfill the myth, you say, "She abandoned me. She changed. She broke me." But she didn't. She simply stopped carrying what was never hers to hold. A woman cannot mother your unloved parts. She cannot fix the fracture. She cannot soothe the shame you never faced. And she's not meant to, because that's not her role, it's yours. So the real work now is not about being better with women, it's about becoming the man who no longer needs to be saved, the man who remembers his soul is sovereign, his masculinity is not a performance, and his worth is not up for negotiation. That's the true initiation. Not loud, not dramatic, but silent. Solar, internal. A man sitting with himself, naked of persona, stripped of illusion, honest enough to say, "I am not broken. I was just waiting for me." From here, everything changes. You no longer chase love for validation. You no longer confuse peace with boredom. You no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. Instead, you become the masculine the feminine has been waiting for. A man who holds himself, who speaks clearly, who doesn't need to be mothered, but chooses to show up rooted, not to earn love, but because that's who he is. This is the gift. Not a new relationship, but a new relationship to yourself. And from that space, when love comes, it is clear, it is grounded, it is free. Not a transaction, not a substitution, but a sacred meeting between two sovereign beings. So take this in. Your mother gave you life, but she didn't give you identity. That's your offering back. To become the man she didn't have the power to raise, not in spite of her, but because you chose to carry forward the lineage, not of pain, but of power. You are not here to repeat her story, you are here to complete it. This is the solar path, not rebellion against the mother, but rising beyond the orbit of her pain. To turn the gaze inward, to father yourself, to become the safe space you never had. And to do it without bitterness, without blame, without shame, only truth, only clarity, only embodiment. You are not the child anymore, you are the man. And the world doesn't need more men who perform strength. It needs men who are rooted in their own worth, who no longer need to be saved, worshipped, or validated, only met. And now, you are ready to be met. This is the solar transmission. You are no longer waiting for love to choose you. You are choosing you. And that changes everything. If this transmission hits something deep, don't scroll away. Subscribe to this channel, drop your truth in the comments, and share this with someone who keeps mistaking chemistry for love. We're building a field of real ones. Welcome to the new frequency. Welcome to solar love.